Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making a holiday pair of earrings. And the earrings that we're going to be making are Rudolph and a brick stitch. This is a pair of earrings I bought from another artist on YouTube who also sells jewelry, and I'll put a link to her channel below. Her name's Teresa. And I couldn't find anywhere where there was a tutorial on how to make these. So I decided to write up the pattern based on the stitching designs on the earrings themselves. Here's a quick glimpse of what it looks like. Very beautiful. And so I'm going to teach you today how to make a pair of these holiday earrings. Considering Christmas is right around the corner, I thought this would be a fun tutorial to make. So what I'll do is I'll make sure and include snapshots of each row as I go along with the different counts of what colors you need to make this pair of earrings. So let me just tell you quickly the different delica beads that we're using. And these are Miyuki delicas, by the way, size 11-0. So the main color is a white, and these are a pearlescent white color that I'm using. The pair that I bought from her are actually a flat white. I'll show you that one so you can see the difference. This was the pair that she made, and I didn't have that color, so I made it in a pearl type white. So really you can do the background in any color you want. If you wanted to do a sky blue instead of white, that would work too, a very pastel color. So there's a lot of different options. So your main color is white, so just use any bead in your stock. The other color is a red. This is like a opaque red. And then I have a few of the galvanized silver. And then this is a bright yellow. And this is a flat black. And then this is called hawthorne. For the face of the reindeer, but really you could use brown, beige, whatever color you have in stock. So go ahead and gather your materials and let's get started. To begin, you're going to string 2 arm lengths of fireline. I'm using crystal today, 6 pound, and once you do that, you're going to put on a stop bead about halfway. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working from the middle of the earring, from the center. We're going to start our pattern here and work our way up. And then we're going to turn around and then work our way down with the other half of the thread. So you can do it that way by doing 2 wingspans of thread with a stop bead, or you can just do a short tail and weave from one side to the other. It's your choice. Okay, so to put a stop bead on, you just pick a bead, pop that on, run your thread through the bead halfway down on your thread, and then just put your needle back through to put your stop bead on, like that. And then when we're ready, we can take this off or move it if we need to move it out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 white delicas. Like that. Bring that down to my stop bead. Or close to it. Now I'm going to bring my needle back through the first delica that I put on. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus. Might be a little too close, so let me back my camera off just a little bit. Okay, so there's my 2 delicas. I'm going to go back through the first delica that I put on and pull my thread. So when you pull your thread, you want those delicas to sit next to each other like that, perfectly stacked. Now I'm going to bring my needle back down through this last delica like that. That's to position my thread on the outer side so that I can pick up my next colors. So after I've added 2 white, I'm going to pick up a silver. Go back through the opposite side of where my thread's coming through on that last delica. pull my needle. And you have to kind of pinch this with your fingers. The first row is going to be a little awkward, but it will improve after that. So you want to make sure these beads are sitting next to each other. Might be a little wonky at first, and if this gets loose, your first bead, you can tighten it up by pulling on your tail thread. Let's just flip this back down. Like that. Okay, so now we need to advance our needle into the silver bead we just added, like that. Pull our thread. So that's what you should have. So now we're going to pick up 3 more white beads, one at a time. So we're adding one at a time. You're picking up this first white bead, going through the opposite side of where your thread is. And each time you add a bead, you have to advance your needle to that next bead you just added. Pick up another white bead. Go in the opposite side of where your thread is. So once you've pulled your thread, you want to advance to that outer delica, like that. So we need to pick up one more white bead. Go in the opposite direction of where your thread is. Now advance your needle to the last delica we added and pull your thread. So there's our 3 white delicas. Now we're going to be picking up 2 black beads, one at a time. So we're picking up a black bead, going in the opposite direction of where our thread's coming out of. Pull your thread. Advance your needle. And we'll just continue doing those steps, and I'll tell you what color we're adding next. Picking up another black. Picking up 3 whites, one at a time. Two blacks, one at a time. Now I'm picking up 3 whites, one at a time. And if the bead you added is twisted, just straighten it out. This first row is going to look a little wonky, but it will all tighten up when we add our next 2 or 3 rows. So I've added my 3rd white, advancing my needle to the end. Now I'm going to pick up a silver bead. Pop that on. And for the last 2 beads, we're picking up 2 whites, 1 bead at a time. And that'll be the end of our first row. And there's my last white. Pull that snug. Make sure you're advancing your needle to the outer edge. So that's what we should have so far. So I'm going to go ahead and take this stop bead off. Just be careful as you're adding rows that you don't get your tail thread, because it's a rather long tail thread. You don't want to get that tangled up with your working thread. Okay, so now we're ready to advance to row 2. For row 2, we're going to do 5 white, 2 black, 4 white, 2 black, and 5 white. So what we're going to do is start doing brick stitch. So my first 5 white beads, I'm going to start by picking up 2 at the beginning. So every time you're starting a new row with brick stitch, you're going to pick up 2 beads. So I've got 2 whites, and I'm going to go under the second thread bridge. So right there's my first thread bridge. I'm going in through this second one, like that. Pull my thread. So from here, I want to pass my needle back up through the last delica I added, like that. I have to pinch this, sorry if you can't see, but I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, so now that I've gone up through that last delica, I'm going to bring my needle down through this outer delica, like that. And that's to get these stacked next to each other. So now I'm going to take my needle and go back up through this delica right here and pull. So when I pull, that should straighten those 2 delicas on the end so that they're stacked a little more neatly, like that. So you're going to have to do that at the beginning of each row as you're going back and forth, where you're going to have to do that. So now I'm going to add another white. I need 3 more whites to complete the 5. So now I'm going up through the next thread bridge, right here. And then bring your needle back up through that delica you just added, like that. If it gets twisted, just straighten it out. We're going to pick up another white bead, go under the next thread bridge, right here. Then go back up that delica you just added. Add another white bead. Go under the next thread bridge. Back up the delica. And pull. So that's our 5 white beads. Now we're going to add 2 blacks, one at a time. So after you do the first 2 beads together, you're always adding the first 2 beads at the beginning. It's 1 bead at a time after that until you reach the end. So we're adding a black bead, same thing, go under the next thread bridge, then bring your needle back up that delica, like that. Pick up another black bead, go through the next thread bridge, then back up the delica. So this is called brick stitch, if you're not familiar with this. So now we're going to add 4 white beads, one at a time. So as you're doing your first row, you just want to make sure that your first row doesn't get twisted around as you're doing this. It can easily happen, so just make sure it's all straight and even. So that's the 4th white bead I just added. Now we're going to do 2 blacks and 5 more whites, one at a time. Five white beads is next, one at a time. Got 2 left. It'll be easier to hold on to this once you have a few more rows done. Like I said, this first couple of rows is a challenge. But be patient, your end result will be a beautiful pair of earrings. So there's my last thread bridge. And then I got to go back up. That last bead I added, like that. So that's row 2. So I'm going to flip this back over because I like to work from right to left, and I'll start my 3rd row. So for your 3rd row, you're going to need 5 white, 2 black, 3 white, 2 black, and 5 white. So I've got those all laid out. 5, 2, 3, 2, 5. So when you start your first row, going back the other direction, remember you have to pick up 2 beads. So out of my 5, I'm picking up 2 whites like that, going under the 2nd thread bridge. So there's 1, there's 2 right there. And notice that it's reducing. So you're going to have it going at an angle for every new row that you're starting. So we've got our 2 beads on. I'm going to bring my needle back up through that last bead I added, because I have to reinforce this to straighten them out. Now I'm going down through this bead here, like that, and then back up this first bead here, like that. Pull, and that will straighten those first two out. Now we're going to add the next 3 white beads, one at a time, all the rest of the row. Everything else is 1 bead at a time after this. So that's my 5 whites going to the blacks. Now 3 whites, one at a time. Now I'm doing 2 black and 5 white, one at a time. Okay. Mistakes happen, and I realize here I didn't go under my second thread bridge here, so that threw my stitches off by 1. So I'm going to have to undo this 3rd row and start over from the end. So let me do that and I'll be right back. So by the way, as I'm making this correction, if you make a mistake like that, the best thing to do is to take your needle off of the working thread and go backwards, pulling your beads off. It's a little tedious, but I'm glad I caught it on this row before I would have completed much more, because then that would have been disappointing. I would have had very crooked reindeer ears. So anyway, I'll be right back once I get this fixed. So the one positive thing about making a mistake is that you learn not to do that again. So we're all human. What can I say? It's all good. Okay, here we are back at the beginning of this 3rd row, and we're adding 5 whites. So I'm going to start the row by picking up 2 white delicas and going under the 2nd thread bridge. So there's our first and there's our 2nd thread bridge. Going back up this last bead. Now we're going down this bead like that. then back up this bead. It should pull that in like that. So now we're in the correct position. So our next thread bridge is right here. And that's where we're going to be adding our next white bead. So in this row we're doing 5 white, 2 black, 3 white, 2 black, and 5 white. Okay, that's our 5th one right here. Now we're picking up a black and a black. Now we're picking up 3 whites, one at a time. Now we're picking up 2 blacks, one at a time. Now we're picking up 5 whites, one at a time. So go ahead and add 5 whites, one at a time, till you get to the end of this row, and then I'll meet you for the beginning of 4th row. Okay, I'm coming down to my 5th white bead at the end of this row. Going in through that last delica. And that's 3 rows completed. Now I'm going to turn this over and start on row 4. Row 4 will be 5 white, 1 black, 4 white, 1 black, and 5 white. So I'll get you started. At the beginning of the row we pick up 2 beads. So in this case it's 2 whites going into the 2nd thread bridge. There's 1, there's 2. Going through the last bead we added. Then down the end bead. You might have to turn it around a little here. It tends to go sideways, like that. Then back up this first delica. And then proceed to add the rest of your beads. So remember, we've got 3 more whites to add. Then we're doing a black, 4 whites, 1 black, and 5 white to the end. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back for row 5. Okay, I'm coming down to my last 2 white beads here. And this is my last one. So to recap, this was row 4. We added 5 white, 1 black, 4 white, 1 black, and 5 white. And that's what you have. So we're going to flip this back over and start row 5. Row 5 will be 2 white, 1 silver, 4 white, 1 red, 4 white, 1 silver, and 2 white. So just remember, you're starting the beginning of your row with 2 whites going under the second thread bridge. 1, 2. Go back up that last delica, because you have to reinforce these to straighten them out. Go down this last delica, then back up this first delica, and continue with your pattern. So we have 1 silver to add now. Go under the next thread bridge. And continue. So continue with those colors. So now you have to do 4 white, 1 red, 4 white, 1 silver, and 2 white. So go ahead and complete that row with those colors, and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm coming near the end here. I just added my silver, and I've got 2 whites to go. And that's our last white bead for row 5. So to recap, that was 2 whites, 1 silver, 4 whites, 1 red, 4 whites, 1 silver, and 2 whites. So now we're ready to flip over and start row 6. 6 will be 6 white, 2 red, and 6 white. So just remember, when you're starting your row, 2 beads, so I'm doing 2 whites to start. So a total of 6 white, 2 red in the middle, and then 6 white at the end, and I'll meet you after row 6 is completed. Okay, coming to the end of row 6 here, just added my last white one. Turn that over. That's what you should have so far. Now we're going on to row 7. For row 7, we're doing 3 white, 2 red, 1 white, 1 red, 1 white, 2 red, and 3 white. So I started with my first 2 of the 3 beads added. So you have to reinforce those first 2 beads. Then I've got my 3rd bead there. Then I've got 2 reds and a white. And now we're going to add a red, a white, 2 reds, and 3 whites. So go ahead and continue that, and I'll meet you at the end for row 7. Coming at the end of row 7 here. And to recap for row 7, that's 3 whites, 2 reds, 1 white, 1 red, 1 white, 2 reds, and 3 whites. Now we're going to start on row 8. For row 8, you have 3 whites, 2 red, 2 whites, 2 red, and 3 whites. So I'll start you off by picking up our first 2 beads, going under the second thread bridge, reinforcing, and go ahead and continue the pattern, and I'll meet you at the end of row 8. Coming down to the end of row 8, picking up my last white one, and that completes row 8. That was 3 white, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, and 3 whites. Flip that over, and we'll start on row 9. So for row 9, it's 5 white, 1 silver, and 5 white. So go ahead and do that. We'll get you started by picking up our first 2 beads, 2 out of the 5 whites, going under the second thread bridge, and you know the rest. So I'll see you at the end of row 9. Okay, coming near the end of row 9, adding my last white bead, so that completes row 9. Recap on that was 5 white, 1 silver, and 5 white. Turn that over, and we'll start on row 10. Row 10 is 2 white, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, and 2 white. So go ahead and do that on row 10, and I'll meet you back. Just remember your first 2 beads, you're picking up 2 whites to start and going under your second thread bridge. And I'll meet you at the end of row 10. All right, coming to the end of row 10, adding my last white bead. So to recap, for row 10 was 2 white, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, and 2 white. Turn that over. Row 11 is 1 white, 2 red, 1 white, 1 red, 1 white, 2 red, and 1 white. So we're picking up a white and a red to start, because you have to do 2 beads at the beginning. So you've got 1 white, 2 red, 1 white. So you're picking up one of the 2 reds right here. Hope that's not too confusing. So from here, you're going to do your second thread bridge, like that. Same way, go back up that last bead, then down the end bead, and back up the first bead. And continue with your pattern. So I've got 1 more red to add, and then I have another white, another red, another white, 2 reds, and then 1 white. So go ahead and continue with that pattern. Again, that's 1 white, 2 red, 1 white, 1 red, 1 white, 2 red, and 1 white. And I'll meet you at the end of row 11. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 10, adding my last white. So to recap, that was 1 white, 2 red, 1 white, 1 red, 1 white, 2 red, and 1 white. So now we're going on to row 12. Row 12 is 3 whites, 2 reds, and 3 whites. So go ahead and do that for row 12, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, coming at the end of row 12, adding my last white. So to recap row 12, that was 3 white, 2 red, and 3 white. Now for row 13 is 3 white, 1 red, and 3 white. So start by picking up 2 beads, going under the second thread bridge, and repeating the rest of the steps. And I'll meet you at the end. Okay, adding my last white bead for row 13. So that was 3 white, 1 red, 3 white. Now for row 14 is 6 white. So go ahead and do that row and I'll meet you back. 6 white beads. Very easy. Row 15, I'm going to flip that over, and you're going to add 2 white, 1 silver, and 2 white. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, coming to the end of row 15, adding my second white at the end. So the pattern for row 15 was 2 white, 1 silver, and 2 white. Row 16 will be 4 white. Row 17 will be 3 white. And I'll meet you at the end of row 17. Coming at the end of row 17, got 1 more to add. That completes row 17. So you would have had for row 16 4 whites, row 17 3 whites, and as you can guess, we're on our last row 18 for 2 whites. So to do row 18, same rule applies. You're picking up those 2 beads together because that's the beginning of the row, going under the second thread bridge. And this is where we're going to end the top part of our earring, because we're going to be adding our wire guardian after this step. So I'm going back through that first delica, down, the delica on the right, and back up the delica on the left. So there you have the first half of your reindeer earrings. From here, we're going to grab one of our wire guardians. Go ahead and put that on. I putting your needle through the right side or left side, it doesn't matter on a wire guard. Go ahead and pull that through. And you're going to pinch this a little bit. There we go. So bring your needle down through the other side and just make sure your thread goes through that thread channel. And I'm going through this delicate right here, right underneath that. So just pinch your fingers together, pull your thread, guiding that so that it sits right in the channel of that wire guardian. Now we're going to go back up the delica on the left, back through and down. We're going to reinforce that 2 more times. So go ahead and do that and I'll meet you back. So reinforce it for a total of 3 times around, and then I'll show you how to end your thread. I've just completed reinforcing this 3 times. My thread's coming out of this delica here on the right. And from here we're just going to weave our thread down a few beads. Now it doesn't matter what direction you go. This is just to reinforce the thread, I'm just coming down the outer edge like this. You come down a few beads at a time, like that. Doesn't matter how many, just weave your thread through. Come down a few more. Now I'm just going to backtrack, go back up a couple of beads. Might have to do it one at a time because of the angle. Now I'm going to weave back down, a few more beads. And I'm going to trim my thread right here. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just go whatever route works best. Clip your thread off. And that is the first half of our earring. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my earring hook to the end here, so we can get that out of the way. So taking my flat nose pliers, I'm going to open this earring hook by bending it towards me like that. To place this on the earring like that and close it back up. So all we have to do now is work on the bottom part of this earring. So to do that, we're going to use our tail thread now, which is the other half of our thread. And that tail thread is coming out of this delica right here. So go ahead and thread your needle with this tail thread, and we'll start with the remaining rows. Okay, now we're going to start our bottom half of our earring, and I'm calling this row 19. So same rule applies. You're going to be going under the second thread bridge, and you're putting 2 beads at the beginning of the row and going under the second thread bridge. So the pattern for row 19 is 4 white, 2 hawthorne, 1 black, 4 white, 1 black, 2 hawthorne, and 4 white. So I'm going to lay the beads out in a row so you can see the colorization. Just give me one moment. So to give you a visual, here's the beads laid out. And it might help you as you're doing patterns like this, if you're a beginner, it may help you as you're doing each row to lay the beads out ahead of time. And that way you have a visual on what you're grabbing next instead of trying to actually count one by one as you're going in each color pile. Sometimes it's easy to make a mistake. Let me just put it that way. I made my mistake earlier, as you'll as you noticed. But anyway, it just helps make it a little easier. So we're going to go ahead and start by picking up the 2 whites out of that 4 white start of your pattern. And same thing, you're going to start your new rows from here on out, and it's going to taper down. You're going into the second thread path like that. Going back up, that last delica, then down the end delica, then back up the first delica. And continue. So from here on out, you're picking 1 bead at a time, going under each thread bridge. and finishing the color palette that you have here in front of you. So again, that's 4 white, 2 hawthorne, 1 black, 4 white, 1 black, 2 hawthorne, and 4 white. And the hawthorne is kind of like a brownish, tannish color. Okay, so I'll see you at the end of row 19. All right, coming down to the last white bead. And that completes row 19. So that's what you should have. To recap, it's 4 white, 2 hawthorne, 1 black, 4 white, 1 black, 2 hawthorne, and 4 white. So now we're going on to row 20. Row 20 is a little bit more complex. So I'll call out the colors here. And you've got, to start, 3 white, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, 2 black, 1 white, 2 black, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, and 3 whites. So I will do this row with you. So we're going to pick up 2 of our 3 whites to start. Second thread bridge. Going in through this first delica, then down the outer delica right here, then back up that first delica. So now we're going to pick up 1 more white, we're going to pick up a hawthorne, which is that brown color, now we're going to pick up the bright yellow, we're going to pick up another hawthorne, now we're going to pick up a black 2 times, another black, a white, a black, another black, a hawthorne, a yellow, another hawthorne, and finish with 3 whites at the end. So go ahead and do the 3 whites at the end, and I'll meet you for the next row. Okay, that completes row 20. Now we're going on to row 21. Row 21 will be 3 whites, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, 1 black, 2 white, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, and 3 whites. So I'll have those color counts on the screen, so you can go ahead and do that on your own if you need to pause the video, and I'll meet you at the end of row 21. Just a reminder, at the beginning of each row you should be picking up 2 beads and going under the second thread bridge. So go ahead and continue with row 21, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, here we are on row 21, coming near the end. I've got a couple more whites to add. And I'll recap one more time on the colors. I was trying to keep this video not quite so long, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this in one take or make this a 2-part video. We'll see. Hopefully I can get it all in one shot. And that's the end of row 21. So this is what you should have, and the colors were 3 white, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, 2 blacks, 2 whites, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, 1 yellow, 1 hawthorne, and 3 white. So now we're going to start row 22. So if you're curious, it's a total of 35 rows to complete this, so we're 2/3 of the way done. So for row 22, which is where we're at now, we're going to be adding 3 whites, 3 hawthorns, 3 blacks, 3 hawthorns, and 3 whites. So we'll go ahead and get you started. Pick up your first 2, go under the second thread bridge, and you know the rest. So I'll meet you at the end of row 22. All right, we're at the end of row 22. Just added my last white bead for row 22. And the recap for that was 3 white, 3 hawthorne, 3 black, 3 hawthorne, and 3 whites. So now we're going on to row 23. Row 23 is 4 white, 6 hawthorne, and 4 white. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the end of row 23. All right, coming down to the end of row 23, adding my last white bead. It's fun making these festive earrings and watching them take shape as you're progressing with each row. It takes a lot of patience. This particular project, I would venture to guess it's probably about 4 hours to complete a pair of these earrings. It took me 1 to 2 hours to do one earring yesterday. So it is a lengthy project, so you want to have time to commit to this. Okay, so that was the end of row 23, which was 4 white, 6 hawthorne, and 4 white. Now we're on to row 24. So for row 24, you need 4 white, 1 hawthorne, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, and 4 white. So go ahead and get started on that, and I'll meet you at the end of row 24. All right, we're coming near the end here. Got a couple more whites to add, and this was row 24. As you can see, our reindeer finally has eyes, and he's looking at you. Okay, so one more white bead here. And we'll be ready to go on to row 25 next. So to recap on row 24, that was 4 white, 1 hawthorne, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, 1 black, 1 hawthorne, 4 white. So for row 25, I'll send you on your own to do this one. It's 3 white, 6 hawthorne, and 3 white. And I'll meet you at the end of row 25. Okay, we're at the end of row 25. Just added my last white bead. To recap, row 25 was 3 white, 6 hawthorne, and 3 white. So now we're going on to row 26. You need 2 whites, 2 hawthorns, 3 red, 2 hawthorn, and 2 whites. So let's get you started, picking up 2 whites, going under the second thread bridge, and continue, and I'll meet you at the end of row 26. Alrighty, we're at row 26 we just completed. I added my last white bead. Recap on that for row 26 was 2 white, 2 hawthorn, 3 red, 2 hawthorn, and 2 white. So now we're going on to row 27, getting near the end here. We're going to be adding for row 27 1 white, 2 hawthorn, 4 red, 2 hawthorn, and 1 white. And I'll do this one with you. Row 27. So pick up your first 2 beads, which in this case will be a white and a hawthorn, because your bead is 1 white, 2 hawthorn, and so forth. So that's what you should have on your needle. Go under the second thread bridge, go back up the first delica, go down the outer delica, back up the first delica. We're going to pick up another hawthorn, and now we're going to add 4 red, 2 hawthorn, and 1 white. So go ahead and do the rest of that, and I'll meet you at the end of row 27. Okay, we are at the end of row 27, picking up my last white. And to recap, for row 27, your beads were 1 white, 2 hawthorn, 4 red, 2 hawthorn, and 1 white. So now we're going to start row 28. You need 1 white, 2 hawthorn, 2 red, 2 hawthorn, and 1 white. So to start, you should be picking up a white and a hawthorn and going under the second thread bridge and continue the rest of the pattern, and I'll meet you at the end of row 28. Okay, that was the end of row 28. Just added my last white delica. Recap for row 28 was 1 white, 2 hawthorn, 3 red, 2 hawthorn, and 1 white. So now we're going to start row 29. That's going to be 1 white, 6 hawthorn, and 1 white. So you're picking up your first 2 beads, which is a white and a hawthorn for this row. Go under the second thread bridge and continue, and I'll meet you at the end. Righty, this is the end of row 29. Just added my 1 white at the end. So to recap, row 29 was 1 white, 6 hawthorn, and 1 white. Now let's go on to row 30. Row 30 will be 2 white, 3 hawthorn, and 2 white, and I'll meet you at the end. All right, coming to the end of row 30, adding my last white bead. Recapping for row 30, you should have 2 white, 3 hawthorn, and 2 whites. So that's what you should have so far. We're almost done. So for row 31, we're going to do 6 white all the way across. So go ahead and do that row with 6 whites, and I'll meet you at the end. So that completes row 31, adding 6 whites. So now we're going on to row 32. For row 32, you're going to do 2 whites, 1 silver, and 2 whites. So go ahead and add that row, and I'll meet you at the end of row 32. So that completes row 32, adding my last white bead. And that was 2 whites, 1 silver, and 2 whites. So we've got row 33 will be 4 whites. Row 34 will be 3 whites. And row 35 will be 2 whites, as you can guess. So go ahead and complete those last 3 rows, doing 4, 3, and 2 whites until you get to the end, and I'll meet you on that last row. Okay, we're coming down to the wire here, adding my last 2 white beads at the end, going under that second thread bridge, going back up this delica, going down the delica on the right. There we go. Sometimes my camera doesn't want to focus. And then back up the delica on the left. So that completes the earring pattern. So what you can do now is take your thread, go down a few beads, weave back and forth, and then cut your tail thread off, and I'll meet you back. So go ahead and do that. I'll meet you back and arrange the earrings. So now that you have your thread weaved and snipped your tail thread off, we're all done with our earrings. And aren't these beautiful, festive, fun thing to make? They make great gifts and lots of different options. You can make the background a different color if you don't have white. You might even try making these with seed beads, which I haven't done yet, but I'm pretty sure you can. The thing about delicas is that they're so well fitted because they're cylinder beads, and it's a real nice tight weave, so it looks nice and crisp, the pattern. But I'm pretty sure you can try it with seed beads, and I'm kind of curious myself, and I'll probably experiment doing a pair like that as well with a different color background. But the possibilities are endless. I did want to mention the lady, I had bought a pair of these from a lady who also does tutorials online. Her name's Teresa, lovely lady, and I couldn't find a tutorial anywhere on how to make these, so I drew out the pattern based on the pair that I bought, but the background is a little different, more of a pearlized white, whereas hers was the chalk white color. But I thought, well, I'm going to draw my own pattern based on what I bought and see if I can make a pair using with the bead stash that I have. So here's a glimpse of the graph paper where I drew it out, and really you can do all kinds of patterns like this. They sell this graph paper online for different types of bead stitches, and this is brick stitch pattern that I used to draw it out. And then I figured out counting the colors, and I went ahead and did the pattern, wrote the pattern out by hand on what the counts were. So it was tedious, but I was curious, and I wanted to do a tutorial and share it with all of you who may not know how to do this particular style of earring. I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I wanted to share it. So there you go. So I hope that you join my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Feel free to forward this link to your family and friends, and I will have my website link in the description box also. I sell my own jewelry, so you'll see that along with a link to the different vendors that I use. I'll also include a link to Teresa's YouTube channel because she's the one that inspired me to figure out the pattern for this pair of earrings, because I did buy a pair from her. She does jewelry tutorials as well, lovely lady, and so I want to give her kudos and credit for this. Thank you again for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and happy beading, everyone, and happy holidays if it's right around the corner. Thank you. See you soon for my next tutorial. Keep watching my channel. Bye now.